So do you remember the whole scooter wars thing from back in, what, 2018, 2019?
Vaguely. I mean, I mostly just remember the bruises on my shins from tripping over them.
That's exactly it. You couldn't walk 10 feet in any big city without, stumbling over a bird or a lime.
Oh, well,
It
yeah.
just felt like this chaotic tech bubble that was, bound to burst. People were throwing them in rivers.
It was the classic growth at all costs playbook. Just dump the hardware on the street and figure out the business model later.
Well, we've got a stack of data here from early 2026 in front of us, and here's the crazy part. The bubble didn't burst. It kind of hardened.
Right.
We're looking at everything from financial filings in the U.S. to academic research in Switzerland, and the story's not chaos anymore. It's critical infrastructure.
That really is the headline, isn't it? The industry grew up. It went from toys on the sidewalk to a really sophisticated and highly funded part of urban transport.
But that journey, it was brutal to get here. I want to start with the money side, because that's where the biggest turnaround is. We have to talk about Bird and Spen.
The original giants.
Right. And if you were paying attention a couple years ago, you'd know Bird actually filed for bankruptcy. It really looked like game over.
It did.
But I'm looking at this report on Third Lane Mobility. That's their parent company now. And the numbers are they're shocking. They've secured another $20 million in new capital.
And that capital is important, but it's actually not the biggest number in that report.
You're talking about the profit.
Exactly. Or more like the swing to profit.
Yeah, let's get into that. The report says they went from losing $300 million in 2019 to a $50 million turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
They're posting about $20 million in adjusted EBITDA. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. Adjusted EBITDA. That can sometimes feel like a bit of a magic trick in finance, can't it?
It's a fair skepticism, for sure.
Is this real stability, or is it just, creative accounting?
I think in this case, it feels pretty structural. It's not just accounting tricks. It's like they performed operational surgery. Back when they were losing all that money, they were just burning cash on marketing and competing everywhere, even in cities where they couldn't possibly make money.
And using those scooters that would break after, 2 months. The disposable era.
Precisely. So what they've done is they've pulled out of the unprofitable markets, they've cut all the bloat, and this is the key part. They've deployed vehicles that actually last.
So the unit economics finally make sense.
That $20 million in EBITDA is a company that isn't just lighting money on fire anymore. They've figured it out.
And speaking of the vehicles, that's another big shift. The standing scooter isn't the only game in town now. The report's talking about a huge move to seated form factors.
Which is huge for accessibility.
Right. They've got these new models, the Explorer e-bike, the Journey, the Dash. But why does just putting a seat on something matter so much for the bottom line?
Well, just think about who can use it. If you need someone to stand up, balance, dodge potholes, you're basically limiting your market to young, pretty able-bodied people.
The classic tech bro demographic.
Essentially. But you offer a seated e-bike, and suddenly you've opened it up to older commuters or people carrying groceries or just someone who doesn't feel like standing for a 30-minute ride.
So more people can ride them, and they ride them for longer.
Exactly. The report says utilization on these seated models is far exceeding the old ones, and if the bike is moving, it's making money.
It also signals to the city that this is a real vehicle, not just a toy.
And that lines up perfectly with their other big move, this new Transportation Advisory Board.
The one chaired by Gabe Klein, right?
Yes. And that name carries a lot of weight. He's a former federal transportation executive.
Yeah.
You don't bring someone like that on board if you're just planning to dump scooters and run.
No, you hire him if you actually want to integrate with the city's public transit system. It feels like they're finally making peace with the cities.
It's a total peace treaty. It's an admission that they can't be the enemy. They have to be a partner.
And that idea of partnership is a perfect transition to what's happening in Europe. Because if the U.S. story is about financial survival, the European one we have here is about, high-tech city planning.
This is the next stage of maturity, using the entire fleet as a massive data gathering tool.
Right. This is the partnership between Bolt, the mobility giant, and ETH Zurich, the technical university. They've launched this Sustainable Urban Transitions Lab.
It's a mouthful of a name, but a really cool project. Bold is putting in about 300,000 euros to build these blueprints for how shared mobility should actually work in a city.
What really caught my eye, though, is the specific data they're tracking. It's not just GPS.
No, it's way more granular.
They're tracking braking patterns and swerving hotspots.
And that's where it gets really interesting for city planners.
Okay, but hold on. How does the data know the difference between a dangerous intersection and just a bad driver? If I swerve because I'm clumsy, how does the system know it's not a pothole?
That's why you need the army of researchers at ETH Zurich. One person swerving is just noise.
Right.
But if you have 500 riders all hitting their brakes hard in the exact same spot, or 50 riders all swerving at the same meter of road on a Tuesday, now you have a pattern.
Ah, okay. So the scooters are basically acting as live sensors for the road conditions.
Exactly. It's like a hive mind for road safety. And this is so important for smaller cities. You know, London or New York, they have huge data science teams. But a mid-sized city, they're usually flying blind.
So this gives them the kind of analytics they could never afford to build themselves.
It does. And they're testing this in two very different cities to start. Seville in Spain and Hanover in Germany.
Which seem like totally different environments.
And that's the point. Seville is dealing with this insane heat-like 40-degree-Celsius summers and 3 million tourists a year cramming onto a single metro line.
So for them, the problem is just capacity, getting people around without them getting heat stroke.
Capacity and comfort, exactly. Then you have Hanover,
The car city.
a total automotive hub, very car-centric. Their problem isn't heat, it's culture. They're trying to figure out how you get people to integrate bikes into a region that just loves its cars.
You can't just copy-paste the solution. You need the data to tailor it.
You need the data.
Okay, so we've got financial stability, we've got smart data, but we have to pivot to the darker side of all this. We can't talk about micromobility without talking about the fires.
It's the elephant in the room, especially in New York.
The stats from the FDNY are they're terrifying. 33 deaths in the last 5 years from battery fires. Honestly, if I'm a landlord in NYC, I'm banning e-bikes from my building immediately. How do you solve that?
Well, you have to understand why they're burning. It's almost never the high-end certified bikes. It's mostly delivery workers who are under huge financial pressure.
So they're buying cheap, uncertified batteries online.
Exactly, and then charging them in their living rooms because, really, where else are they going to do it?
But there's a company trying to break that cycle, right? Pop Wheels. They just raised $4.7 million.
This is a perfect example of infrastructure as a safety service. Pop Wheels is building out a battery swapping network.
So walk me through it. It's like a vending machine for batteries.
Pretty much. Instead of buying your own questionable battery and charging it by your bed, you pay a subscription. It's about $75 a month.
Okay.
You ride up to a kiosk, you swap your dead battery for a fully charged one, and you're on your way in seconds.
$75 a month. That actually sounds cheaper than owning one, especially if you're a full-time courier.
It is cheaper than owning. Because batteries degrade, they break. If you own it, that replacement cost is on you. With the subscription, Pop Wheels takes on all that risk.
And they take on the safety responsibility, too.
That's the most critical part. Pop Wheels owns the batteries. They can monitor the health of every single cell professionally. If one starts going bad, they just pull it from circulation.
So you take the dangerous part, the actual charging out of the apartment, and put it in a fireproof kiosk on the street.
You do. And the data from their pilot program backs it up. It said 90% of their customers completely stopped charging at home.
Which is a massive win for public safety.
It basically eliminates the fire risk for those riders. And now they're expanding beyond New York to D.C. and other cities. It's a business model that solves a safety crisis.
Okay, so we solved the power problem. Let's get back to the vehicles themselves. We've talked about moving people, but what about moving stuff? I keep seeing more of these cargo bikes that look like tiny vans.
The logistics sector. Yeah, this is where a company called Vuck Bikes comes in.
They're based in Estonia, just raised $6 million. But I have to stop you on one detail in their tech specs. They claim their bikes have torque vectoring.
I know.
I mean, that sounds like something you hear in a review for a $200,000 sports car. Oh, the precision torque vectoring for cornering. Why on earth does a milk delivery bike need torque vectoring?
It sounds like total marketing buzz, but it's actually really important for safety. Think about a normal cargo bike. It's already heavy. Now load it up with 100 kilos of IKEA furniture or milk. If you try to take a sharp turn on a wet street, or one wheel hits a patch of ice, what happens?
They're going down. And so is the milk.
Exactly. Torque vectoring lets a computer send different amounts of power to each of the wheels independently. It stabilizes the whole vehicle through a turn. It makes it drive more like a car than a bike.
So it's really about reliability for their clients.
For clients like IKEA or Modern Milkman in the UK, reliability is everything. They can't have their drivers tipping over all the time.
But I still have to ask, why not just use a van? Why go to all this trouble to re-engineer a bike?
Parking.
Just parking.
In a dense city, absolutely.
Yeah.
A van has to find a loading zone or double park and risk a ticket or block traffic. A Voke bike can pull right up on the sidewalk to the front door.
Right.
Modern Milkman actually reported their drops were quicker with these. And on top of that, they cited a 95% reduction in CO2.
So it's faster and it's cleaner.
That's the only way this stuff scales. Being green is a nice bonus, but being faster is what makes you profitable.
Okay, so we've covered the tech, safety, logistics. I want to zoom out to the consumer. How are people actually getting access to these things? Because a good e-bike is still expensive. We're talking $2,000 or $3,000.
That's the biggest barrier, for sure. And we have 3 different stories in the stack that solve this in 3 very different ways. You've got the circular economy, the corporate benefit, and the public option.
Let's start with the circular economy one. Upway. They raised a massive $60 million Series C.
Yeah, and they're basically solving the used car salesman problem for bikes. If you buy a used e-bike on Craigslist, you have no idea what you're getting. The battery could be shot. The motor could be about to die.
It's a huge gamble.
Upway removes that gamble. They're like a certified pre-owned dealership for bikes. They buy used ones, run them through a 50-point inspection, refurbish them, and then sell them with a warranty.
And the discount's pretty big, right? The report says an average of 45% off retail.
That's the key. A $3,000 bike suddenly becomes, what, $1,600? That opens up the market to a whole new group of people, and it keeps old bikes out of landfills. It's a win-win.
Okay, then there's the corporate benefit model. This is Ride a Panda. They raised $12.6 million.
This one's fascinating because it treats the e-bike like a company perk. You know, like a gym membership or a company car.
But why would a company pay for that? Is it just to look green?
That's part of it, but there's also a big return-to-office angle. Companies are trying everything to get people back to their desks.
Right.
And if you can make their commute easier or even fun and free, people are a lot more likely to actually show up.
The stats on this are wild. Normal bike commuting is, what, 2% of people? Ride a Panda says their corporate partners are seeing 10 to 13% of employees sign up.
It just proves that people want to ride, they just don't want the upfront cost and the hassle of maintenance. If your boss pays for it and takes care of it, you're in.
But both of those models, buying refurbished or getting one from your tech job, they still leave a lot of people out.
Right.
Which is where the Oakland, California story fits in.
Right. This is the public option. Oakland got an $800,000 grant to run an e-bike lending library.
And this is aimed specifically at low-income residents. The price is kind of unbelievable.
It's $20 for 4 weeks.
And that's for the bike, the helmet, the lock, everything.
Everything.
That's basically universal basic mobility.
It's a recognition that transportation is a right. If you can't get to a job interview because you can't afford a car or a $3,000 bike, you're stuck. This program bridges that gap.
So it's not a business model in the profit sense, but the return on investment for the community is probably huge.
Exactly. So you've got private ownership, corporate leasing, and public lending. The whole ecosystem is starting to fill in all the cracks.
I want to hit one last piece of news here before we wrap. It's from Europe, and it feels like the final seal of approval on this whole maturity idea. Donkey Republic.
Aside from having the best name in the entire industry.
Aside from the great name, yes. They're a Danish bike share company. They raised 10 million euros to expand in Germany. But the real headline is that they're preparing to uplist to the NASDAQ Copenhagen main market in 2026.
And that's a subtle but really important detail. Moving to a main market exchange is like growing up. It means you're inviting serious institutional investors, pension funds, insurance companies, to buy your stock.
It's not just venture capitalists gambling on a startup anymore.
No, it means you need strict governance, total transparency, proven stability. It's the industry putting on a suit and tie and telling the world, we are a utility like water or electricity, and we are here to stay.
So let's pull all this together. We started with the chaos of 2019. Now in 2026, you've got Bird and Spin making real profits. You've got pop wheels solving the fire risks, Vogue bikes outperforming vans, and all this capital flowing in to make it affordable.
The foundation has been poured, that's how I see it. The whole experimental phase is over.
Yeah, it feels like for years the question was, will this technology even survive?
And now the question is just, how fast can we integrate it?
Which leads me to this thought I've been having reading all this. If this whole network keeps getting denser, if I can walk out my door and grab a safe, charged e-bike for a few bucks, or get my groceries delivered by a cargo bike that's faster than a van, at what point does owning a private car in a city stop being a status symbol and start being just a burden?
I think we're already at that tipping point. It's not going to happen because governments ban cars. It's going to happen because the alternative is simply better. It's cheaper, it's faster, and frankly, it's more fun.
The market just wins in the end.
It always does.
So next time you see an e-bike whizzing past,
Yeah.
don't just see a bike. Look at the whole tech stack behind it. The safety sensors, the battery network, the financing models. It's a rolling piece of a new kind of city.
Absolutely.
That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Virtual's me.